I think with agentic AI, people are realizing that you can't build on top of these shaky data foundations. So while it was fun to try to build something with AI, I think we've come down to data being the bedrock, and it needs to be trusted, and it needs to be powerful and high quality. Or everything else you do is not going to be worth it. And that's why, when we read about so many of these AI ventures failing or AI projects failing in companies, it's because of the quality of the data. Unless you spend the time to enrich and elevate that data, your results are just going to be shaky.
Thank you everyone for joining us today for another episode of Navigating Technology with Zeal. Now, if I already look like I've had a head start and I'm excited and ready to go, it's because I've been having an amazing discussion already with our guest today. We have in our office, and once again, I think I say this about a lot of our guests because I am so super excited about everyone that honors us by being on our podcast. But today we truly have someone very special. I think when I go through, I could not even verbally memorize her accomplishments, so I wrote them down. So this intro is going to be a little long, just a heads up. Our guest today has 25 years of technology experience. When you look at her, you cannot say that anybody will age out of technology or get so much experience that they're not relevant 15, 20, 25 years from now. She truly is a role model for all of us technologists. She is 2023 Tech Titans Hall of Fame Award winner, 2021 Orbi CIO of the Year, 2020 Women in Tech Luminary Award, Dallas Business Journal 2015 Women in Technology mention, CIO nominee for, I don't even want to name all 5 or the 6 years that she was a nominee for, and Innotech Executive IT Award of the Year for 2014. So that is just the beginning of her accomplishments. Her career spans over currently being SVP CIO at CN AI. You probably already guessed who I'm talking about because everybody in this industry knows her. EVP CIO Rimini Street, SVP CIO for NCH Corp, and along with that, a lot of advisory and board member positions for Charles Haley's Tackle Tomorrow Foundation, IWF, ATW, tech, allies all over the place. So today we are so honored and privileged to have in the studios with us, Gertrude Van Horn. The amazing, great, awesome Trudy Van Horn.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that great introduction.
Thank you for being here.
Thrilled to be here.
So Trudy, I want to start with the story of how you got introduced. And I like to do that with all of my interviews because it gives me an insight into how did you get here where you are today? How did the journey in technology start for you? What made you pick a career in tech when it wasn't the thing to do?
So I came from a family of engineers, lots of distinguished engineers. My brother was a chip design and tester for IBM. But in the family, it was only the guys. None of the women were in tech. And I decided I wanted to be part of that game. So it took me 10 years to put myself through college.
Wow.
It took me 10 years to get caught up because everyone was ahead of me by the time I had graduated. And I feel really blessed to have had lots of opportunities of people helping me along the way and lots of courage about willing to take a new role, willing to move to a new state, willing to build some new relationships, build some skills that I didn't have before. I worked for a woman who was a CIO, and I was the number 2, and I always thought I would be a number 2. But she was a board member and had recommended me for a CIO position, and that was my first CIO position. So, hats off to Patty Morrison and helping me. She's helped a lot of people get a start as a CIO, but it all comes back to relationships, network, right. Doing the best job you can, being ready for the opportunities that come along. And then I tell people once you're in the CIO club, you're kind of in the club. You can move around, and you know that too. Yeah, so yeah, that was my first start, and that was what made all the difference for me.
Amazing. Now, the tech landscape has changed dramatically, right? What advice would you give young people looking to enter the field of technology? Because there's so many options. There's some fields like cyber that you can go so deep in and
right.
super specialized, and there's very generalized fields as well, like information systems. What is your advice if somebody was looking for a lucrative career in technology and just starting out?
I think there are a lot of ways to get started in tech, but to make it to that highest level, I think you need to develop some skills outside of tech to complement what you're doing in tech. It's a great question. As you know, I'm part of the fourth cohort, teaching the fourth cohort at SMU. Yes. Tech CXO Excellence, and it's for executives who are aspiring to be at the C-suite. And in tech, we think that deep tech is what we need to have, and that's going to get us to the next level. And I think what you really need to do is to think like a business person first, and a lot of technicians forget to do that. We need to talk in the language of business, which is all about finance, requires a lot of work to understand the jargon and talk the way a CFO would talk. And then finally, your relationships and your networks. No one can keep up with all the technology. Mm-hmm. So having that strong network, lots of relationships, people that inspire you and have done things that you've not done, I think is really important. So my advice for anyone joining tech is build unquestionable skills in the discipline that you've selected, yes, but then add to that business. How does your company make money? Who are the competitors? What are the trends in the industry? Understand the finances. How does your company make money, and how do you ask for investments, and where are you underinvested or overinvested? And then finally, build a really rich network of people that you can lean on and go to if you need a new vendor, if you need to know how to solve a problem that you've never solved before.
I think that was just the gist of a book on how to excel at a career in tech, like right there. If you had never thought of writing a book, I would seriously consider that.
Thanks.
Really impressed with the Tech CXO program as well. I think Karen's amazing, Karen Bruno, and then what they're doing with uplifting the next generation of leaders is very amazing. And they have an amazing cohort leaders like yourself teaching those hands-on skills. When you're in technology, and since you said about starting your career with a degree, what is the relevance of that engineering or technical degree today? Because you have lots of kids building gaming platforms in their parents' basements, right?
Right.
And there's something to be said about that drive and just self-learning, but there's also something to be said about structured education. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I believe that the technology that most universities are offering is probably years behind what's happening today.
Interesting.
And I think that for me personally, I wanted to learn more about AI. I've been a traditional CIO in traditional companies for years and years, and wanted to get some experience in AI. And you quickly realize you're not going to get it by learning, by talking to people, by watching podcasts. You need to get in there. And that's why I joined CN. Thrilled to be there, and I feel like I think differently because I'm there. But again, it's that immersive experience, that experiential learning. You have to be part of it. And I don't know that a lot of the universities can offer that. Now, there are great universities, and we're lucky to have great universities here in Dallas, where you can get that immersive experience and you can work and intern with some of these great firms. But failing that, I think Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, these guys, they didn't need to have the book learning in order to be innovative and crush the tech. And I think that's an opportunity that all of our young people have. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. Especially now, we know that it's hard to get a job. Jobs are tough right now, and you need to have the credentials, both on the technical credentials as well as the degrees. So it's important to have that, and it was important for me to have that. I would have never gotten where I am had I not had the piece of paper. But if you want to be deep tech, you're not going to get it in most universities today.
Right.
That's my view.
That's self-learning, self-motivation.
Yeah, jumping in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about your current role.
Sure.
You are on the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah.
Once again, working with an AI firm called CN AI.
Yep.
Talk about what you do there.
So CN AI is amazing. Coming into your office today, I got a chance to talk to some of the staff here. I was talking about CN AI. We've built an analytics and diagnostics platform where we acquire knowledge from CRMs like Salesforce in just days. And in 5 or 7 days, we can create diagnostics that, for me, I've built systems like that. And it took millions of dollars in many, many years. And now that's a SaaS product, AI-powered, cloud-native, off-the-shelf. I joined an AI startup, again, because I thought that was the only way I was going to learn. But the startup world is, everybody told me, oh, it's nothing like you think it is. And I'm the email admin. I write policies. I'm the compliance officer. I set up the booth when we're doing a convention, and I help sell, and I write articles. And I am, I was lucky enough to be the champion as we got our ISO 27001 certification.
Congratulations!
Just a week ago. Yeah, I'm really
that's a huge accomplishment.
It is a huge accomplishment. Yeah. So you do a little bit of everything, and I've learned so much because of that. Your priorities are different, timing is different, and it really is a 24/7 go, go, go. But the product is amazing, and I'm so thrilled to be there.
Yeah, the product looks amazing, and I've seen a demo, and from it seems like it focuses a lot on data.
So we talked about the data.
We've talked with a few other guests, right, about how critical data is to to a successful AI overall strategy and implementation of an AI project. Do you feel like data is still like the redheaded stepchild and ignored a bit when we talk about the fancy new applications of AI? And how do you think that plays a role in the success or failure of an AI implementation?
Well, it's a great question. The thing I love about CNAI is they've focused on the data first. So the first step in this entire process of diagnostics is to elevate the data and augment the data. So they've got hundreds of millions of records from working with prior clients and prospects that is informing that data augmentation and enhancement. I think with Agentic AI, people are realizing that you can't build on top of these shaky data foundations. So while it was fun to try to build something with AI, I think we've come down to data being the bedrock, and it needs to be trusted, and it needs to be powerful and high quality, or everything else you do is not going to be worth it. And that's why, when we read about so many of these AI ventures failing or AI projects failing in companies, it's because of the quality of the data. Unless you spend the time to enrich and elevate that data, your results are just going to be shaky, like the data is.
We don't go too tech normally in these podcasts, but I do have a question. The initial release for the product, right? Data labeling must have been such a high priority and focus. How was that handled, and what role does that play now, a couple of years into the journey?
So it's interesting when you think about the universe of data that CN is using. It is predominantly CRM data from some of the largest providers of CRM, Microsoft Dynamics, HubSpot, and Salesforce. That data is well classified, well categorized. So the data quality issue comes in when you think of the sales guy, right? They're going to do the bare minimum they can when they fill out a sales record in Salesforce or in Microsoft Dynamics. They're going to fill in the bare minimum
to stake a claim on the account, right? That's it.
So having that data completed, and we can do that. We can make those inference engines. We can make those AI-powered determinations of how to classify data, how to standardize data, how to complete data about a prospect. And the other thing is if TI is your client and you've got 5 different salespeople, they're all trying to sell to TI. It might be one opportunity, but it looks like 5 or 10 or 15 in your system. So we can understand that and also dedupe or make the data consistent, fill it out. And we can also glean information about how long the sales process takes. How long does it take to close a deal? Are you working on the highest quality prospects? How much time is being spent where? So these are things that you really have to tease out of the data, and no one's really gotten a leg up on that. We've been doing it for 10 years. So long answer to your question, but we're lucky to be in a universe of data that is well structured and well understood, and it's just to drive the analytics and the recommendations and insights out of it. we tell people we are able to find places where you've left revenue and growth on the table because of the places where there's friction in that sales or go-to-market motion. But yeah, it's just been a fantastic journey. I'm thrilled to be part of CNAI.
I can't even imagine. Any perfect wow client moments you'd like to share with us today? Because we hear so much about AI projects failing.
Oh, sure. We worked with one client, and they were just testing the waters with us, like a lot of people are doing with AI. And we said, we'll send you a one-click connect, and then we'll access your data, and you'll have some results the next day. And they said, no, it'll take us a few weeks to get the data ready. It's like, no, you just have to do this one-click connect. But no, honestly, just the one-click connect. So they get the email, they click on it, and then overnight, generally, for most companies, overnight we can process the data. And we got an email the next day going, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it was that fast and we didn't have to do anything. So that's the power of AI. But we're still in that weird place where CN was ahead of the curve for AI. No one could believe it was real. Now everybody gets it, but they're skeptical.
Right.
So now we're getting the skeptics on board, and that was one of the fun things.
That sounds
to see the power and the speed.
Yeah, because there are definitely a lot of skeptics in the space.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's not because of no reason, right? We see a lot of projects fail due to poor planning. Yeah. So sometimes when you're like, oh, it sounds too good to be true, but in this case, sounds like it is.
It's
actually
amazing. We worked with a really big, one of the world's best known SaaS providers. And within just a couple weeks, we had identified some places where they had left some money on the table. And that, in the end, was worth about $180 million for them. They only focused on one of the recommendation areas.
The product paid for itself many times
over. Oh, yeah. It paid for itself within the first 90 days or so. Yeah.
That is pretty cool. That is an amazing story.
It's fun. It's really fun to see something that I built in the Stone Ages.
Right.
So long ago to now being something that's so easy to use and so powerful and so helpful for clients.
So speaking of that, right, when we start our careers, and 26 years of an illustrious career, and obviously you worked very hard to get here. And I, by the way, was in the booth next to you setting up the booth. So I know I know what it means to exercise muscles you've not exercised before, is not having an EA, right?
Absolutely.
And so, but it's still fun, and it's
really
new
fun.
Learning and growth and kind of going back to the basics. But if you looked at your career and the growth trajectory, and you looked at the technology, how do you compare the tech space from when you first started, and then working for a more traditional org for the longest time like NCH, and now working for an AI company that's a startup?
Right.
What are those technical differences?
Oh, the technical differences are astounding. I remember when it was, card punch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started, it was
in the cafeteria.
Yes,
there was a sheet of paper with your name on it for people that would not know what that means.
Absolutely. So the technology is amazing, but what I love about the evolution to AI, and particularly working with CN, is I honestly think differently about the way I work. I spoke to one of the guys who does deployment for IBM and AI. And I asked him how he uses AI and how he uses the LLMs. And his answer changed my approach. He said, I write papers, I do a lot of analysis. He said, I use AI to tell me whether my argument is strong enough. Tell me what is being written in the space that I may not have thought about. Tell me what my audience is likely to question when they read this. And we've all used AI for research, right, but to perfect the result of what we're doing, we've all used it to make the words prettier too. Right. But to perfect the argument, to understand the holistic problem that we're addressing, having that, it's almost like a study partner, right? Or a professor that is your advisor. Hadn't thought of using it that way. So the time it's saving all of us is amazing, but the way it elevates the thinking for us, I think, is also something that's pretty amazing. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, yes. And then 20 more questions came from it as well. So if you had to go back, because I think you're in a very envious position, right? Because you don't have to deal with any legacy stuff at your org.
Right.
It's a
right.
startup, it's
Yeah.
AI, everything is cutting edge.
Yeah.
But if you go back and look at a lot of companies out there, some companies that we have worked at that do have a lot of legacy, I wouldn't call it baggage, right? But it is baggage in a way.
Right.
But they also want to then take that step forward and move into the AI space and do the next big AI, and without jeopardizing what they have going in their system space today. What is your advice for companies like that?
Yeah. When we look at companies and the way they've evolved, it used to be companies had maybe 50 apps. And now, since the explosion of app and app building, there's hundreds and hundreds of apps. So I think understanding the inventory of what you have in your environment, I think is really, really important. And then quite often we think of modernizing these applications, but depending on how the data is being used by some of these other applications that we may or may not know about, you may not be able to do that. So that inventory, I think, is really, really important. But technical debt is our biggest issue in traditional IT. It's the biggest issue right now. And we'd all love to leapfrog over it. And I think eventually we will be able to do more of that with AI. We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
The other issue that most large companies have is they don't have all the talent they need. There's not
big
enough
gap.
experience in AI. It's not been around long enough. Not enough people have put things into production and know how it behaves, or worked with these models long enough to know how they behave. But I think there's little skunk works that people, I think large corporations need to greenlight more R&D work so that they can begin to build that capability and that muscle within their environment, so that when the time comes for them to be able to propel forward, they've got a little bit of experience under their belt. But trying to keep people with this talent is very, very hard.
Right.
It's a mercenary world right now for those kind of people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it seems like a problem too big to tackle.
Yeah.
And so then you're like in your flight, fight, freeze mode, and most companies I feel are frozen. But they also are fighting that legacy battle of the budgeting.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what's interesting right now is all of the boards are pushing CEOs and executive teams to have that successful foray into AI, but they all want something that's quick, going to pay back fast, and low risk. That's a really hard space to be in. Another reason why I love CN, we're right there. I mean, everybody is familiar with CRM data and they know the risk and the issues associated with it so well, and there's very few. But when you think about boards wanting to greenlight it, CEOs want something that they can rely on, CFOs want something that's predictable, it's kind of a tough space to be in. Board pressure, I think, is the thing that's going to drive people.
Always does.
Yeah, into AI, and I think it's going to drive more investment, but I think we're going to have to get a little bit more risk tolerant in order to flesh that out.
And CIOs and CTOs will need to find that balance, right? I think CN has that right balance.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Or it's flashy enough to look like the next new shiny object, but has substance enough to have ROI.
Right.
And sometimes the flashy projects are not easy to implement, and they're pie in the sky, but sometimes they're down and dirty.
Yeah.
Let's figure out our CRM data. The ROI is quick, so you're able to do a quick proof of concept and figure out where you're headed with it.
The one thing that's very interesting right now, we all hear about agentic. So if you fly up to 30,000 feet with me, on the left there's the guy or the gal, and on the right is the computer. And now in the middle is agentic AI. So some stats that I find fascinating. A human can consume data at about 40 or 50 bits per second. AI can consume it at about 86 gigabits per second.
Whoa.
That's 14 billion times faster. So we've got this genius on steroids between the human and the computer. And not only can that agentic AI agent do for this guy, but for hundreds and thousands of other people. So who can oversee that speed? More AI, reviewing AI. You know that,
Right.
within the last year, I think we have surpassed all the knowledge that AI can learn, that we have collected as humans over the last millennia. And now AI is learning from AI. You know, 50% of the articles you read are pretty much AI created. Yeah. A lot of the video is now AI created. So we have AI governing AI. So that whole getting your head around agentic AI and how to make it safe enough to use, and be thoughtful enough about the use case for it, I think is really the next frontier for all of us.
How's CNAI handling that security privacy aspect of the equation?
Right. So again, with access to the CRM data, that is something that is, you know, permissions based. We get that based on a company being okay with us having it. It's containerized. It lives in its own environment within the cloud, or can live in the client's cloud. We don't even need to have the data, and we will get rid of the data according to the contract or when the client wants. So they are totally in control of the data. And then the recommendations and insights we make are suggested to the client. AI is not making any decisions on behalf of the client. So I think that's a very different place to be. With agentic AI, what I love about it in CN's case is, you've seen the demo, we've got a lot of very sophisticated diagnostics and a lot of ways to drill down, and it's great for someone who is a quant. You know, they get all of that stuff. But now we're layering in agentic AI to be able to guide someone who's a novice on, you know, show me my churn rate, show me my ramp up rate for my salespeople, how many new logo clients do I have versus repeat business. And that's something that agentic AI can guide the client to. So,
Right.
you know, it's kind of a place where it's very, very safe to take that action. It doesn't create any risk proposal. We're just helping with the workflow on it. So, yeah.
And solves for a big
Again,
problem.
we're in a great place to be right now.
That also solves for a very big problem, because often when you're launching complicated technology projects, everybody's looking to the CTO and his team, or the CIO and his or her team, to say, okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
And they are looking right back at business saying, I can implement, but you need to tell me, what are you looking for?
Right.
And now here's AI that can then bridge that gap.
Absolutely.
And say,
Absolutely.
I think this is what you need, and you
not
may not
only-
even realize it.
Not only bridge it, but bridge it elegantly, right? Almost conversationally, which is the best way to learn and move forward. Yeah, the access that we have to information and insights and recommendations is great with CNAI. And with this ability to have agentic AI helping to guide your research and your analysis, they can take action on those recommendations so much faster. A client is in a much better position to be able to be guided to take advantage of the recommendations and insights.
Absolutely. So many more questions. I think we need a follow-up podcast. But if you look at your own personal journey, stepping away from work, right? What is, because obviously you're very driven, and you wouldn't be where you are today if you were not a self-motivated, driven person. From a personal and professional standpoint, what's next for Trudy?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So I started to search for an AI company to join kind of at the end of last year, starting about this time last year, and was lucky to be guided by Ebba to CNAI. And I had interviewed several companies, and moving to CNAI, the purpose of that for me was, number one, to broaden out my skills as a CIO. You need to know a lot about AI. But secondly, in order to be a better corporate director, I think it's really important to have that skill, because a lot of corporate boards are asking, you know, what does this really mean? You know, what do boots on the ground think about this? So I'm still interested in advising and being part of this. I've fallen in love with CNAI along the way. So I don't think that this is just a few months and then I'm going to move on. I love being part of it. I think the mission is wonderful. I'm still teaching and guiding the next generation of leaders. I'm thrilled to be part of the Tech CXO launchpad work that we're doing at SMU. Working with younger people and helping them on the career journey, I think, is really important. It took me forever to get to, well, it felt like forever to get to where I got to, and I made so many mistakes along the way. It's so great to be able to share that with people and share the advice in order for them to get more quickly to where they want to go in their career, and then being intentional. And then finally, I think there is a need for people like me to help bridge the gap for a lot of tech executives who are kind of in the old school and maybe afraid about moving to the new school, and I can help them in that transition too. As you know, I have a big network, I have a great network, and I think some people are trepidatious about it, and are in companies that are not forgiving.
Or even if they're brave, there's not enough bandwidth.
Oh,
so to have the support and the backup from somebody that can look at the equation from the outside and be that trusted advisor, but have been in your shoes, I think that is such a critical thing.
Yeah. You know, and I love this tech community. You know, you and I talked about it. The DFW tech community is amazing. So whatever I can do to stay involved. You know, I have a lot of groups that I work with, DFW, ATW, and the International Women's Forum, and I advise Tech Genies, and I've been with Tech Allies forever. So yeah, staying involved in that community is something that I also want to continue to do.
Absolutely.
I think the one last thing I want to say is I also want to invest in more of these smaller businesses. I've done that to some extent, but there's not enough women that are investing in women's businesses, and women's businesses and founders are only getting 2% of the available funding out there. So, you know, for all of those who are listening to your podcast, you know, I'd encourage women to be part of an investment group, even if they're not going to write a check. Learn more about it, understand how it works. I think all of us need to be supporting one another in our career growth and also in the success of our businesses.
Completely agree, and there's a whole different conversation we can have on just that topic.
Absolutely.
It's such a lucrative field to be in for everybody, and benefits the greater good.
Yes.
So many nuggets there. I see ambition, drive, but I also see intention. I see raising of the hand, but very targeted in the way you approach your career and your life. So you said a few key things there. If you had to name one ingredient of the secret sauce, what would be that most critical ingredient for your success?
So, this will sound odd, but I think sharing with people what you want and why is probably the most powerful thing that you can do, because the people that are closest to you are going to ask you how you're doing on that goal.
Right.
And the people that see you and know that you're talented are going to think, oh, you know, does she know about this next thing that she could be trying? Or I need to introduce her to that person. That is so important. That those people become the guideposts along your journey. So if I was going to give any advice, declare out loud what it is you're trying to do and why, so that people can help you. If they don't know, they can never help you get there.
Never help you get. That's so true. And then not only that, I think we get so busy in the day-to-day that we don't look up.
Oh, for
and
sure.
see all the help that's around us and all the community that's rallying for us and not take enough advantage. And then you kind of give back the same way as well.
Right.
So I think you're amazing at that. I think you're amazing at networking, but not just from a pure point of networking and knowing other professionals, but giving back.
I want to hang out with you all the time. You say such nice things.
I would love to hang out with you. I was almost thinking as we were talking that, you know, maybe Audra can come over, our videographer, and we can like shoot an overnight series where we just get like hot chocolate and there's a fireplace, and then I have all these amazing execs come and I get to talk to them beyond the standard podcast limit, right?
That's not a bad idea.
Have a pajama night and just talk our hearts out, because there's so much we get from this, so much we learn and get and receive and give back in the process.
Right.
So all that you do, which I'm still amazed at how you do it, what do you do from a personal, like self-care standpoint? And I ask men and women both
I'm
that.
terrible at that. So I was supposed to be retired this year again. I was supposed to be retired last year, and I was supposed to be retired this year. So I have crazy busy travel as well as the work that I'm doing.
You were just in Africa.
Yes.
And it wasn't for work, but still work related.
Yes. I love going to different places and traveling. I think Africa was such an amazing education of contrasts, and what an amazing continent, and the people are fantastic, and the struggles there are real. They are real. So yeah, a lot of travel. I play golf still.
Oh my God.
I still do, I do a lot of sewing still, make curtains and upholstery and clothes and stuff. So I do a little bit of that.
And I do want to say, this
time.
gorgeous jacket you have on today that I've been eyeing, trying to not rip it off of you for myself, you made this yourself?
Yeah.
And sometimes I've seen you at gala events where you have done entire ball gowns yourself. So
yeah.
Is that your form of sort of reflection time and creativity outlet?
Yeah, it's just really creative. The higher you get in the up echelon of work, the fewer accomplishments you personally have, right? You celebrate the accomplishments of your team. So like the only thing I get to be responsible for 100% are the things that I can make. So that works for me.
You're amazing at it.
Thanks. And my husband is fantastic. And he's a great supporter and a great friend and an amazing husband. So he's still the light of my life.
And an amazing photo taker as well. When all of us girlfriends or colleagues are posing, he's so patient with that. And
he is, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Trudy, you're amazing.
So are you, Rush.
Thank you.
This is amazing that you do this.
It's more for fun. I don't want David, our CEO, to know that, but this is brings me so much joy.
Yeah,
to meet with my colleagues and stay in
yeah.
touch and have some fun conversations and walk away learning so much.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time. I know when I got your email yesterday, and you're like, I just got back from Africa and I'm reading your potential questions. I was like, of course you did. Of course you did. So thank you for taking the time for us.
Thanks. It's wonderful to be here. And I love Zeal, what you have built, the Net Promoter Scores, the way that you keep the employees motivated and engaged, and it's just an amazing company. I am thrilled to know more about it. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. I think that's such an integral part, and I think the podcast similarly kind of stretches into that, into our extending into the community to have that same spirit of, just collaboration and working together.
Sure.
So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks. Great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.